Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Under the veil of darkness, the clandestine base came to life, a hive of covert preparation for unnamed operations. In the midst of this orchestrated chaos stood Sebastian, distinct with his neatly styled auburn locks and sleek, blue formal wear. This impending assignment, he knew, would challenge the very core of his training. A static-laden voice over the intercom shattered the hum of activity.
Agent Sebastian, you're wanted in Director Chen's office. Stat.
With a resolute breath and nervous fingers tugging at his collar, Sebastian navigated the sterile corridors. Reaching the director's office, he rapped on the door, his heart's cadence a telling tremor in his knuckles.
Enter,
ordered a firm voice.
What's the situation, ma'am?
Director Chen leaned forward, her eyes intense.
We've uncovered a terrorist cell planning a major attack. Our intel suggests they're operating under the guise of a high-end fashion company.
Sebastian nodded, trying to mask his surprise.
What's our play?
We need someone on the inside, Director Chen explained. Someone who can infiltrate their inner circle and gather crucial information.
I'm ready for the challenge,
Sebastian affirmed, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Director Chen's lips curled into a wry smile.
It's not that simple, Thompson. The organization is run entirely by women. They're extremely cautious and only allow female employees access to sensitive areas.
Sebastian's brow furrowed. I don't understand. How can I—
We need you to go undercover, Director Chen interrupted. As a woman.
The words hit Sebastian like a punch to the gut. He blinked, certain he had misheard.
Excuse me? You heard correctly, Agent Thompson. This mission requires you to assume a female identity. Our team will provide you with everything you need. Clothing, makeup, voice training. You'll become Sarah Foster, a rising star in the fashion industry.
Sebastian's mind reeled. He had trained for countless scenarios, but this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. Director, with all due respect, I'm not sure I'm the right person for this mission.
You're our best option, Thompson. Your analytical skills are unmatched, and you have a knack for adapting to new situations.
Plus, your build and features will make the transformation more convincing. Sebastian ran a hand through his auburn hair, struggling to process the information. How long would the mission last?
As long as it takes to gather the necessary intelligence and neutralize the threat. Could be weeks, could be months.
The gravity of the situation settled over Sebastian. Lives were at stake. He took a deep breath and straightened his shoulders.
I'll do it.
Director Chen nodded approvingly.
Excellent. Report to the transformation suite immediately. Your training begins now.
The next few weeks were a whirlwind of intense preparation. Sebastian spent countless hours with voice coaches, learning to speak in a higher register and adopt feminine speech patterns. Makeup artists taught him the intricacies of contouring and color correction. He practiced walking in heels until his feet ached and learned to move his body with a more graceful, feminine gait. As the days passed, Sebastian found himself becoming more comfortable in his new skin. The auburn wig he wore felt increasingly natural, and he grew accustomed to the feel of dresses and skirts against his legs. Finally, the day of the mission arrived. Sebastian, now Sarah, stood before a full-length mirror, barely recognizing the person staring back at him. His muscular frame had been softened by strategic padding and a corset. A sleek blue dress hugged his newly created curves, and expertly applied makeup enhanced his features. The auburn wig cascaded over his shoulders in soft waves.
Remember,
Director Chen said, standing behind him. You're Sarah Foster now, brilliant, ambitious, and eager to make your mark in the fashion world. Your interview at Chimera Fashions is in 2 hours. Are you ready? Sebastian took a deep breath, watching his reflection do the same. When he spoke, it was in the soft, melodious voice he had spent weeks perfecting.
I'm ready.
The Chimera Fashions headquarters loomed before him, a gleaming tower of glass and steel. Sebastian smoothed down his blue dress and strode towards the entrance, his heels clicking against the pavement. He had to remind himself not to walk with the purposeful stride of an agent, but instead to adopt the graceful gait he had practiced. At the reception desk, a young woman greeted him with a polite smile. "Good morning. How may I assist you?"
I'm Sarah Foster,
Sebastian replied, his voice smooth and confident. "I have an interview with Ms. Renard." The receptionist tapped at her computer, then nodded. "Of course, Ms. Foster. Please take the elevator to the 30th floor, Ms.
Renard's assistant will meet you there."
Sebastian thanked her and made his way to the elevator, acutely aware of the eyes following him. He focused on maintaining his posture, keeping his movements fluid and feminine. The elevator doors opened on the 30th floor, revealing a stunning view of the city skyline. A sleek, modern office spread out before him, filled with fashionable men and women bustling about their day. A tall woman with a severe haircut approached him. "Ms. Foster? I'm Vivian, Ms. Renard's assistant. Please follow me." Sebastian followed Vivian through the office, taking mental notes of the layout and security measures. They stopped before an imposing set of double doors. Vivian knocked twice, then opened the door. "Ms. Renard, Sarah Foster is here for her interview." Sebastian stepped into the office, his heart racing. A striking woman in her late 40s sat behind a massive desk, her piercing gaze fixed on him. This was Evelyn Renard, the CEO of Chimera Fashions, and if the agency's intel was correct, the mastermind behind the terrorist cell. "Ms. Foster," Evelyn said, her voice cool and measured. "Please, have a seat." Sebastian gracefully lowered himself into the chair across from Evelyn, crossing his legs at the ankle as he had been taught. "Thank you for seeing me, Ms. Renard. I'm honored to be considered for a position at Chimera Fashions." Evelyn leaned back in her chair, studying Sebastian intently. "Your portfolio is impressive, Ms. Foster. But I'm curious, why Chimera? Surely a talent like yours has had other offers." Sebastian had rehearsed this moment countless times. He leaned forward slightly, allowing a hint of passion to color his voice. "Chimera isn't just a fashion company, Ms. Renard. It's a movement. Your designs don't just clothe people, they empower them. I want to be part of that vision." A small smile played at the corners of Evelyn's lips. "Interesting perspective, Ms. Foster. Tell me, what do you know about our latest project, Operation Chrysalis?" Sebastian's pulse quickened. This was it, the first hint of the organization's true nature. He kept his expression neutral, feigning polite curiosity. "I'm afraid I'm not familiar with that project, Ms. Renard. Is it a new clothing line?" Evelyn's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "In a manner of speaking, it's a very transformative collection. Perhaps you'll have the opportunity to learn more about it." The interview continued, a delicate dance of questions and answers. Sebastian drew on all his training, carefully balancing his responses to appear knowledgeable, yet not suspiciously so. By the end, he could sense that he had made a positive impression. Evelyn stood, extending her hand.
"Well, Miss Foster, I believe you may be just what Chimera needs. We'll be in touch very soon."
Sebastian shook her hand, careful to keep his grip light.
Thank you, Ms. Renard. I look forward to hearing from you.
As he left the building, Sebastian's mind raced. Operation Chrysalis. It had to be connected to the terrorist plot. He needed to report back to Director Chen immediately. Back at the safe house, Sebastian carefully removed his wig and makeup, his movements practiced and efficient. He couldn't shake the strange feeling of disconnection as he transitioned back to his male persona. Director Chen's face appeared on the secure video link.
Report, Agent Thompson. How did it go?
Sebastian recounted the details of the interview, paying special attention to the mention of Operation Chrysalis.
It's definitely our target, ma'am. Renard all but confirmed it.
Chen nodded, her expression grave.
Excellent work, Thompson. We need you to pursue this lead. Are you prepared to maintain your cover for an extended period?
Sebastian hesitated for a moment, then nodded firmly.
Yes, ma'am. Whatever it takes to complete the mission. Good. We'll have a team monitoring you at all times. Remember, your safety is paramount. If you feel your cover is at risk, abort immediately.
The next morning, Sebastian received a call from Vivian, Evelyn's assistant.
Ms. Foster, I'm pleased to inform you that you've been selected for the position at Chimera Fashions. Can you start tomorrow?
Sebastian felt a mix of excitement and apprehension as he accepted the offer. The real work was about to begin. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Sebastian, as Sarah, threw himself into his role at Chimera Fashions. He attended meetings, contributed to design sessions, and slowly began to gain the trust of his colleagues. All the while, he kept his senses attuned to any information about Operation Chrysalis. It was during a late-night work session that Sebastian finally got his break. He had volunteered to stay behind to finish a project, knowing it would give him the opportunity to do some discreet snooping. As he made his way through the deserted office, he noticed a faint light coming from beneath Evelyn's door. Cautiously, he approached, straining to hear the muffled voices within. "The shipment is almost ready," Evelyn was saying. "Once Operation Chrysalis is activated, there will be no stopping us." Sebastian's heart raced. He leaned closer, desperate to hear more. Suddenly, the door swung open. Evelyn stood there, her eyes narrowing as she took in the sight of Sebastian in his blue dress, clearly caught eavesdropping. "Ms. Foster," Evelyn said, her voice dangerously soft. "I believe we need to have a little chat." Sebastian's mind raced, searching for a plausible excuse. But before he could speak, Evelyn grabbed his arm, pulling him into the office and locking the door behind them. "I had such high hopes for you, Sarah," Evelyn said, circling Sebastian like a predator. "You showed such promise, but I'm afraid curiosity can be a dangerous thing." Sebastian straightened his spine, channeling all of his training into maintaining his cover.
"Ms. Renard, I can explain. I was just—"
"Spare me your excuses," Evelyn snapped. "The question is, what am I going to do with you now?" Sebastian tensed, ready for a fight. But Evelyn's next words caught him completely off guard. "You have two choices, my dear," she said, her voice suddenly silky. "You can walk out that door and forget everything you've seen and heard. Your career will be over, of course. Or—" She paused, a sly smile playing on her lips. "You can join us, become part of something truly revolutionary." Sebastian's mind reeled. This was his chance to get deeper into the organization, to uncover the full extent of their plans. But it would mean pushing his cover to the limit.
"What exactly are you offering?"
he asked, allowing a hint of intrigue to color his voice. Evelyn's smile widened, Operation Chrysalis isn't just about fashion, Sarah. It's about transformation. We're developing a compound that can fundamentally alter human biology. Imagine the possibilities. Spies who can truly become anyone. Soldiers who can adapt to any environment. Sebastian fought to keep his expression neutral, even as alarm bells rang in his head. This was far bigger than they had anticipated. And where do I fit into all this? You could be our first volunteer, Evelyn said, her eyes gleaming. Help us perfect the formula. Become something more. Sebastian knew he was walking a dangerous line, but he had to see this through. I'm interested, he said carefully. But I need to know more. Evelyn nodded approvingly. Of course. Come with me. It's time you saw what we're really doing here. She led Sebastian to a hidden elevator, descending deep beneath the Chimera Fashions building. When the doors opened, Sebastian found himself in a state-of-the-art laboratory filled with equipment he didn't recognize. Welcome, Evelyn said, gesturing grandly, to the true heart of Operation Chrysalis. Over the next few hours, Evelyn explained the intricacies of their plan. The compound they were developing would allow for complete physical transformation down to the cellular level. Their goal was to create an army of shapeshifters, loyal only to their cause. Sebastian listened intently, his mind racing to process the implications. This technology in the wrong hands could destabilize governments, upend society as they knew it. He knew he had to find a way to stop them. So, Sarah, Evelyn said, fixing Sebastian with an intense gaze. Are you ready to be part of history? Sebastian took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come.
I'm in,
he said, forcing a smile.
Where do we start?
The next few days were a blur of tests and preparations. Sebastian underwent a battery of physical examinations, all while desperately trying to find a way to contact his handlers. But he was never left alone, always under the watchful eye of Evelyn or one of her scientists. Finally, the day of the procedure arrived. Sebastian lay on a cold metal table, his heart pounding as the scientists bustled around him. He was acutely aware of the blue medical gown draped over his body, a stark contrast to the stylish dresses he had grown accustomed to wearing. Evelyn appeared above him, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Are you ready to make history, Sarah? Sebastian nodded, not trusting himself to speak. As the anesthesia mask descended over his face, his last conscious thought was a desperate hope that his team would find him in time. When Sebastian awoke, the world felt different. His body felt lighter, softer. He blinked, trying to clear the fog from his mind. Welcome back. Evelyn's voice came from beside him. How do you feel? Sebastian tried to speak, but his voice came out as a hoarse whisper. He cleared his throat and tried again. I'm not sure. Evelyn helped him sit up, and Sebastian gasped as he caught sight of his reflection in a nearby mirror. The person staring back at him was undeniably female, not just in appearance, but in every physical aspect. His auburn hair, no longer a wig, fell in soft waves around a delicate face. His body had changed, taking on unmistakably feminine curves.
The transformation was a complete success,
Evelyn said, her voice filled with pride. You're the first, Sarah, the prototype for a new era of human evolution. Sebastian's mind raced. The transformation was real, far more extensive and permanent than he had ever imagined possible. He was no longer pretending to be Sarah. In a very real sense, He had become her. As the implications of his new reality sank in, Sebastian realized that his mission had just become infinitely more complicated. He was in deeper than ever before, with no clear way out, but he was also in a unique position to gather the evidence needed to bring down Evelyn's entire operation. Over the next few weeks, Sebastian, now truly Sarah in body, if not in mind, threw himself into his role with renewed vigor. He participated in further tests and experiments, all while carefully documenting everything he saw and heard. Evelyn, thrilled with the success of the first transformation, began to let her guard down around Sarah. She shared more details about their plans, including the names of key players and the locations of other secret facilities. But as time passed, Sebastian found himself struggling with unexpected challenges. His new body felt increasingly natural, and he caught himself adopting mannerisms and behaviors that were distinctly feminine without even thinking about it. The line between his true self and his cover identity began to blur. One evening, as he sat in his apartment carefully encrypting his latest report to send to his handlers, Sebastian caught sight of himself in the mirror. He was wearing a simple blue dress, his auburn hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. For a moment, he hardly recognized himself. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over him. Part of him longed to complete his mission, to return to his old life and leave this strange interlude behind. But another part, a part that grew stronger each day, felt a sense of freedom and authenticity in this new identity. Sebastian shook his head, trying to clear away the confusing thoughts. He had a job to do, a mission to complete. He couldn't afford to lose sight of who he really was. As he finished his report, a plan began to form in his mind. He had gathered enough evidence to bring down Evelyn's operation. It was time to make his move. The next day, Sarah approached Evelyn with a proposal. "I think we're ready to move to the next phase," she said, her voice confident. "We should start recruiting more volunteers." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And who did you have in mind?" "I have connections in the fashion industry," Sarah replied smoothly. "People who would jump at the chance to be part of something revolutionary. Let me reach out to them." Evelyn considered for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, but be discreet. We can't risk exposure at this stage." Sarah smiled. "Of course. You can trust me." As soon as she left Evelyn's office, Sarah put her plan into motion. She sent a coded message to her handlers, providing them with all the information they needed to coordinate a raid on the Chimera Fashion's headquarters. The next 48 hours were tense. Sarah went about her duties as usual, all while knowing that at any moment, the operation could come crashing down around them. Finally, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, all hell broke loose. Alarms blared as government agents stormed the building. Sarah watched from her office as Evelyn was led away in handcuffs, her face a mask of fury and betrayal. In the chaos that followed, Sarah slipped away, making her way to a pre-arranged extraction point. As she climbed into the waiting vehicle, she felt a mix of triumph and uncertainty. The mission was over, but her journey was far from finished. Back at the agency, Sebastian faced a barrage of debriefings and medical examinations. The scientists were fascinated by his transformation, eager to study the effects of Evelyn's compound. Director Chen met with him privately, her expression a mix of concern and admiration.
"You've done exemplary work, Agent Thompson. Thanks to you, we've dismantled a major threat to national security."
Sebastian nodded, acutely aware of how strange his new voice sounded in this familiar setting.
"Thank you, ma'am. What happens now?
Chen sighed. That's up to you. Our medical team is working on understanding the transformation process. Given time, they may be able to reverse it. Or? Sebastian prompted. Or you could choose to remain as you are. Your skills as an agent, combined with this new ability, could be invaluable for future missions. Sebastian fell silent, considering the options before him. The idea of returning to his old self was tempting, a chance to reclaim the identity he had known all his life. But he couldn't deny the part of him that had grown comfortable, even happy, in this new skin.
I need time,
he said finally.
Time to figure out who I really am now.
Chen nodded understanding.
Take all the time you need. Whatever you decide, you'll have our full support.
As Sebastian left the office, he caught a glimpse of his reflection in a window. The face that looked back at him was both familiar and strange, a blend of who he had been and who he had become. He realized that his greatest mission lay ahead, discovering his true self in the aftermath of an extraordinary transformation. It would be a journey of self-discovery, fraught with challenges and uncertainties. But as he squared his shoulders and stepped out into the world, Sebastian felt ready to face whatever lay ahead, secure in the knowledge that he had the strength and adaptability to thrive in any form. The blue dress he wore rustled softly as he walked, a reminder of the incredible journey he had undergone. Whatever the future held, Sebastian knew that he would face it with the same courage and determination that had seen him through his most challenging mission yet. As he stepped out into the sunlight, the auburn hair that was now truly his own, gleaming in the afternoon sun, Sebastian felt a sense of possibility unfurling before him. His life had been irrevocably changed, but perhaps that change would lead him to a truer version of himself than he had ever known before. The story of Sebastian and Sarah was far from over. It was, in many ways, just beginning.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!